And now we get to the biggest question on our list. Our fifth question of the day, and the one that can't be ignored any longer. What is wrong with this conference? This is unbelievable to me. This is my 10th season covering Ohio State. The Big Ten has not been great in many of those years. Right now, the Big Ten is 1-10 in non-conference play against other power conference teams. They are 13-13 against anybody at their level, against FBS teams. They played all those FCS schools, those Division I AA schools. That's where they're piling up their wins right now. It is staggering to me, the inability of this conference to go out and compete with anybody else on their level. And there are lots of reasons for that. There are recruiting reasons. There are coaching reasons. I'm tired of hearing about demographics because there are a lot of good players right here in the Midwest that are not coming to Big Ten schools and are not getting developed by Big Ten schools. This is a problem for a conference that has a lot of money, has done a lot of things to get more money, and at the moment is unable, seemingly, to spend that money in any kind of way that translates to consistent, broad success on the field. I know people are moving to where it is warm. You've got to win some non-conference games. Guess where it's not warm? It's not warm in Oregon. I don't know what the demographics are of Oregon, but if they're going out and recruiting kids in Texas or anywhere else in the country, if you can tell a kid to go to Oregon to play, you should be able to tell a kid to go to Wisconsin to play, to go to Michigan State to play. Michigan State's been good. This is not directed at Michigan State. To go to Minnesota to play, it is unbelievable the amount of excuses that people give this conference. Bill, when you think about the Big Ten right now, what are your hopes for this league the rest of the year? Now, the good thing is when they start conference play, as I understand it, it's impossible for two Big Ten teams to both lose when they're playing each other. One of them has to win. So they'll start, having a good 500 record against each other. What do you think is up with the Big Ten, and what are we looking at this year?
I think you're looking at, frankly, some mediocre football the rest of the way. I think Michigan State's a good football team, and Ohio State could possibly be a good football team. Wisconsin is good. Nebraska is unbeaten, but almost lost to McNeese State at home. So I honestly don't know what to make of it. I've tried to think about that for 3 weeks now, what is going on with this conference. And a lot's going wrong with it. I mean, if you look at the national picture, like we touched on it earlier, can Ohio State get in? I don't know if anyone in the Big Ten can get into the college football playoff, regardless of what happens the rest of the way. Too much needs to happen in these other conferences that are clearly better than the Big Ten for the Big Ten to have any shot at getting back to national relevance in this season.
Before we get to you, Ari, I just want to run down the list, what I like to call games the Big Ten could lose this weekend. Iowa could lose to Pitt. Nebraska, one of two undefeated teams along with Penn State, could lose to Miami. Maryland could lose to Syracuse. Utah could go in and beat Michigan. I think that probably will happen. Rutgers is the only Big Ten team with a power conference win. They are underdogs against Navy this week. Indiana's going to go lose at Missouri, and the Bowling Green, Wisconsin game, I'll tell you, I don't think that's a sure thing. No. Ari, what are we talking about with the Big Ten here?
Do you want me to give you another minute?
I'm going to throw my pen.
Do you want me to?
You're good.
Yeah. It's just bad, man. It's just bad. I think that, I'm the recruiting dude, so I think that the number one thing is that they're just not recruiting players. And they're not recruiting players in states that they should be recruiting players in. And I think Ohio's the biggest one. There's some stuff that we will probably be working on here shortly, dissecting it for you in print form. But there are just too many good players in the state of Ohio and the Midwest that aren't staying in these areas. And they are losing out to teams in the SEC. They're losing out to, there are times where MAC schools are getting 3-star prospects out of Ohio that should be going to Purdue. And I think that's part of the reason why you're seeing the top half of the MAC is better than the bottom half of the Big Ten. And that's kind of a mesh that you don't want to keep having. I think that there should be separation between a Purdue and a Miami of Ohio. And right now, is it really that big of a difference? So the laundry list of issues that this conference is facing is pretty long. And I'll throw it back to you, Doug.
Ohio State off this week, coming back with Cincinnati the week after. We, of course, will continue with our coverage all through the week here at cleveland.com. Thank you for watching here for our second Ohio State Big Ten football show of the year, along with Bill Landis, along with Ari Wasserman. I'm Doug Lesmerises, and I'll try not to be so angry. I'm sorry.